What's up, guys? It's your girl Am, and I'm here back with another episode of Am I Grown Yet? This is my first time doing video. I know a lot of you are used to the audio, so this is definitely something new. Be sure to comment and let me know if you guys would prefer to see video content as opposed to just audio. So today I have a lovely panelist here, and they're here to discuss this month's topic, which is self-care. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. You already know your girl Am. We'll start from my right, but your left.
Hey y'all, it's Bianca. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey.
Hey you guys, I'm Janita Rose. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
You cool.
Yo, it's good. It's your boy Koo from Newark, New Jersey. Follow me on the gram at only_Naku.
Yo, it's your boy Olu from Hillside.
Hi guys, my name is Daniel. You can call me Danny. I'm from East Orange, New Jersey.
Okay, guys, now that you've met our panelists, we're gonna do an icebreaker, and this icebreaker is to give everybody an opportunity to kind of get a feel for the type of people we have here, and also to give you guys an idea of where everybody's head's at. So the first question that we're gonna start with, Bianca's gonna be the first to answer this question. How old is your oldest pair of underwear?
Oh, she just went.
Honest answers.
I have no idea. Like, I think I still have underwear from maybe like 8th grade, 9th grade. I didn't say I wear it.
No shame, y'all. No shade.
You know, at the back of the drawer, like it's still there.
No shade, y'all. No shade. Jonna.
I have like an underwear fetish, so I'm always buying new underwear.
So Jonna has new underwear.
Yeah, all the time. Sorry.
My oldest pair of underwear, if I'm being honest, is probably, I've been kind of like the same size since I was like a freshman in college. We're gonna say like 4 years.
I mean, that's better than Bianca.
Cool, your turn.
Wow.
I get new underwear every other Christmas, so yeah, I get new underwear.
Shout out to Cool.
Every other Christmas.
Y'all lying.
Every other Christmas.
Very specific.
Oh, they're trying to be shady over there.
I think my oldest pair of underwear were like these really nice silk boxers. I had them when I was like a teenager, but I never wore them. I think I would wear them like once in a while, and I don't know where they're at now, but I know I still have them.
So like 10 years.
I guess.
Damn.
10 years is your oldest pair of underwear. Okay, Danny.
Honestly, like I change underwear a lot
Like Jonna.
because I don't know. It's just like changing clothes for me. So
It's weird, right?
yeah.
So we're dirty and everybody else has clean underwear.
All the shade.
All right,
all
next
the
question.
shade.
Next question.
So some
Next
people
question. Okay, so we'll start this way. Danny, you can start. How long can food be on the ground before you can't eat it anymore?
Oh, that's a good question.
Ever since COVID, 0.5 seconds.
Okay. Olga.
It depends on the ground we talking about. It's like,
No. Honestly, to give you a serious answer, I feel like 5 seconds is enough.
5 seconds.
Yes.
for me, it depends on the food, the type of food. Because if I drop like a noodle on the ground, it's done for. But if it's like I drop like a Tostitos chip, I might, scoop that thing up real
A
quick.
good 2 minutes.
But yeah.
Nasty. Go ahead, Cool.
It depends on the floor, honestly. Like this floor is pretty valid. Like I would probably like give it like 3-5 seconds. But if we're somewhere in like public or something like that, it's slow. Like it's a dub.
What
But
about
then
your
again,
house, though? What about your house?
I mean, I got cats, so like,
Oh.
yeah, they Furby all over the place. So yeah, nah.
For me, if it's anywhere outside of my house, it depends on the floor, but like anywhere outside of the house, if it's like a chip, as a matter of fact, I might want to sit here and lie. I'm a big germ freak. Like I can't. If it's outside of my house, I won't. If it's inside my house and it's like rice or something, I won't. But if it's like a piece of chicken or like a shrimp, I'll pick it up after like 5 seconds. Give that chicken up. I'll pick it up after like 5 seconds. Jonna.
Well, you said oxtail. I'm with you on that one. But me, I'm the same way like you. I'm germophobic, so I don't like anything. Once it touches on the ground, I'm like, no. Unless it's a piece of chicken, because I love chicken. And like seafood, I love seafood. But anything else, no. It's a no.
So what's the amount of time for you?
0.
So you just won't pick up any kind of food if it falls on the
Unless,
floor?
actually, no, 5 seconds. If it's something I like and it tastes really good, then yes. If it's in like my house, outside public, no.
B.
Honestly, it depends on how hungry I am.
At least you're being honest. At least you're being
and
honest.
I don't eat food off the ground. If it's not from my house or something, I'm not eating no food off the ground. That's just it. Like, I don't care how hungry I am. I'm gonna just go buy some more. That's it.
Fair enough. The next question, we can start with you, B. What is the weirdest thing you do in your spare time?
Well, everybody says isn't weird, but I give myself a pep talk. I basically like. Sometimes I wake up not feeling that great, so I'm like, all right, you need to shake this. Come on, let's get it together. I don't know what you need to do, but you need to get it done. Like, just try to uplift myself when I'm feeling a little down. And I try to do that for other people too, but yeah.
We're saying weird though. So are you saying you do this like in a weird voice, or is it just...
sometimes I have an announcer voice on.
Okay.
Like I be trying to give myself, motivational speaker vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So I be like, you need to do what you need to do to get yourself. I be giving myself all the energy.
That's still not weird to me.
Like I be really.
I said that's not weird to me. I kind of do that to myself.
I don't know.
What about you, Jana?
I respect it.
I just have a weird food dance because I just like food. Food is life. That's about it.
I think somebody asked something about if you were gonna do that dance or something like that.
So
Yeah,
it
are you
depends
gonna-
on the vibe and depends on the food. So if it's like chicken, I'll just be like.
Hey.
Okay.
But if it's like something else, then I'm just going down on the ground.
All right, Jana's food dance, y'all. For me, I think the weirdest thing that I do in my spare time is like make songs out of nothing. So like if I'm just sitting there and I'm cooking and it's like I'm throwing seasoning on the chicken, I'm just like singing about me throwing seasoning on the chicken. I make songs out of the dumbest stuff when I'm by myself and in my own time. So that's my weird thing to do. What about you, Cool?
My weird thing is definitely I talk to my cats. But like I feel like it's
Same.
normal to talk to your pets,
Same.
cats, but
Same.
But not like I really
Same.
like talk to them as if they talking back to me.
That's
like,
weird, Cool.
Yeah, see, like
That's a thing.
like they be looking at me a certain way, so I'm like talking to them, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what he's saying back to me, and then you having a whole conversation.
Cats have personalities,
They definitely
though.
do.
They have
They definitely
they
do.
have really big personalities. What about you, Lola? My eyes tearing.
I guess it's weird. I mean, I don't find it weird, but I watch like anime intros on YouTube, but it's like in Japanese, and I don't know what they're saying, but I like it. I guess
Catchy.
It's okay because I like anime and I love the intro. I love the intro and the outro. It's all right. I'm with you on that one.
I mean, some people think it's weird, but I don't.
You don't know what they be saying, but you be going with it. Like,
And then it lit too, all groovy and stuff. It's okay.
Danny, what about you?
For me, it was okay. So being Nigerian, I was kind of forced into my books. So I guess I enjoy watching TED Talks a lot now.
Okay.
So that's what I do in my.
That's not weird. That's not weird at all.
I mean, okay.
That's not
Say
weird.
so.
All right, last question, guys. Last question. This is okay. This is more kind of like on the deep intellectual side, a little not intellectual, but kind of deep. What song or genre do you listen to when you're at your lowest? We'll start with you, Danny.
I listen to African music a lot. So at my lowest, I am bumping that Burna Boy, and I'm getting right back up.
Lola?
With me, when I'm down, I listen to music that like makes me even more sad. I don't know why, but
I
like
do
when
that sometimes too.
yeah, when I'm sad, I listen to sad music. So I think when my ex broke up with me, I listened.
He went there early, y'all. He went there early. He went there early.
Just try to answer the question.
Let's
I mean, you go to the next person.
Oh, we made him sad. Go ahead, Cool. What song or genre do you listen to when you're at your lowest?
It's not like it's an artist. I listen to Sam Smith when I'm at my lowest.
Ooh, that's low. I love
so
that. That's
I
low.
really be in my bag. So like if I'm in my bag, I get there. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta bump some Sam Smith. So yeah.
For me, when I'm at my lowest, depending on what kind of low it is, if it's like a life low, like I'm really overwhelmed, I listen to gospel music. And two of the songs I go to is I'm gonna see a victory. That song, I think it's by Elevation Church, and then Amazing by Hezekiah Walker. But if it's like relationship low, or like I'm just like low, I usually listen to like R&B genre. Yeah.
For me, it depends on the mood. I'm old school, so I actually like blues and soul music. And I love Jay Holiday. I love Holiday. Billie Holiday.
Jay Holiday a vibe.
Yeah, he's a vibe too for something else, but name for that.
Okay.
And I love Black. Like I love
Okay.
Black. When I'm in the mood, like if I'm in that mood where I just want to fight somebody, Black it is, because he just bring me
Black's
down.
kinda low.
Yeah, he bring me
kinda
down, but also make me feel
I'm
like
sorry. What
I'm there.
mood? Where you want to do what?
We're just gonna go past somebody else. Hi, Bianca.
Hey. Oh,
How
okay.
we
So,
doing?
well, for when I'm really low, honestly, I really don't have a preference, because I listen to sad music when I'm happy. I listen to club music when I'm sad. Like I listen to everything. Like it really has no preference. It's honestly because I just love music. So whatever song is getting me, like, honestly, it'll distract me from whatever I was thinking about. I would just get into the music. So it's whatever.
Fair enough. So that ends our icebreaker. Hopefully you guys kind of got like a sense of the type of people everybody is. We know B has the oldest underwear. Ola will eat food that's been on the ground for hours. But let's get into why we're here. We're gonna get into today's discussion. So like I was mentioning before, this month is going to be surrounded around self-care. In the first episode, I don't know if any of you guys listened to it, but it was pretty much an introduction of where I am personally with self-care, the things that I've overcome. This episode and this month is in no way, shape, or form me telling you guys that I'm some sort of guru when it comes to life problems. This is just me expressing myself, and the same for the panelists here. We're just giving you guys our experiences. Hopefully you can gain something from it, maybe not make mistakes we've made or get into situations we've gotten into. But to kick off this conversation, we are going to talk about overcoming toxic family members and dysfunctional families. So before we actually talk about it, I want to kind of get where you guys' mind is when it comes down to toxic families. What would you describe as a toxic family or a dysfunctional family? We can start with the guys. Cool, you can start first. You can also add if you have ever had a toxic family member, or if you feel like you have a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I've definitely had a toxic family member, dysfunctional family. And you said the question was like, what would I describe
What
that
would you
as?
describe a toxic family member or a dysfunctional family?
I would describe a toxic member of the family as like, this just relates to me a little bit personally, but like say like, you know, you feel like you're always getting picked on, or you know, everything you do is always wrong. Or
They always
like,
got something to say.
Yeah, always got something to say, or you being shady and like making slick comments under your breath, you know, that type of stuff. Like that's what I consider a toxic member of the family.
Nola?
I don't really have experience with like toxic family members that I could think of, but if I were to define it, to me, it's like probably somebody a family member that doesn't like support you in any type of way and just sees the cons of everything that you do, for the most part.
For me, it would be more of understanding what the goals are for the family first, before you can speak on what is toxic and what is not. So I feel like if there's no understanding, or if there's no communication in terms of like what the family's trying to achieve, then you're just going around in circles being toxic. So yeah.
That's fair enough. That's actually a good point, because if the type of family that you have is a family where the standard that you have set is, you know, going to school, or at least having some like a successful career, obtaining wealth, and somebody in the family is like going outside of that, they're considered usually like the sheep of the family. So anything going outside of that, I guess, would be considered like going against the family values. Okay. B, you could start.
Well, actually, to piggyback off that, I do believe that setting those goals and having really good communication as far as a family is concerned does set the tone for what defines toxicity. So like for me, I feel like I'm the black sheep of the family personally. So I just think that my mindset is way far off from like the rest of the family. Not saying that they don't have set goals, but like I feel like the things that they take in that they want to be concerned about are very minor and things that they shouldn't even give their energy to, and that's something that they don't understand. But like I choose not to let those certain things bother me to an extent that I see that they bother them at. So like when they bring that into my life, it's like bringing in negativity that I try to like veer away from. So that's where the lack of communication, the lack of understanding comes in. So yeah, it's more so about just keeping like a positive mindset. And if they just bring in negativity constantly, then it's just not really like for me in a way.
Toxic family. I kind of just stay away from the toxic, so I can't really relate to certain situations. I do know, like, when I see it and I see it present itself, I kind of just like go into my own shell, because like I don't like conflict, and I think like if you constantly into a situation when you're constantly in conflict with your family, that could be toxic to you. That's what I think. Like if it's constant conflict, negativity, you trying to just be yourself and constantly just getting played down, and just, all that good stuff. But that's what I think is toxic family.
Just to piggyback off of what everybody said, having a toxic family, like what I was saying before, it definitely does depend on the standard of your family. So personally, I haven't really dealt with like emotionally or physical abuse in my family, but the toxic side really came from like lack of support. That's emotional, that's just general support, like for things that I wanted to do for myself. So growing up in a household, I got a lot of siblings. So growing up in a household, I had 5 other siblings. I can't count. But growing up, I grew up in a Christian household. So like the way of life was always like just presenting yourself appropriately, as far as like, not going out drinking and stuff like that. But on the more positive side, like just making something of yourself, not necessarily being someone who's just about money all the time, but just making something well of yourself. And in my case, I was sort of like the black sheep out of my family, but it's kind of like weird. So out of all my siblings, I was the first to graduate college, and it's no shade to them. It was just me like keeping my head strong on what goals I have for myself. So there were certain events, like after my parents' divorce, you can listen to that in the past episodes. After my parents' divorce, I went my own route, which was just making sure that I have a way to make a better life for me and my future family. So for me, it was like, I wasn't around the family as much if they did like cookouts and stuff, or if they were at like a family member's house. Like I was either working, I was at school, going to college and doing stuff like that. So me choosing that for myself, it left other members of my family feeling like, oh, she thinks she's better than us because she's choosing this for herself, or she doesn't come around us because she thinks that her life is better than ours. That was kind of like the feedback that I was getting from my family. And it wasn't until like after, like years later, and I'm talking like a few months ago, like recently, where family members of mine would tell me like, yo, I get why you did that, and the time it didn't seem that way. But to make a long story short, for me, that was my experience with having like sort of like toxic family members. Even like whether you were doing something good or whether you're doing something bad, it was just like always having something to say, nothing in support as much, more so like, oh, you think you're this, you think you're that. And to me, that did a little damage on kind of like my emotional side, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that to me is what my experience of a toxic family or dysfunctional family is like. Just to go into it with you guys, what would your advice be to someone? I know Olu, you said you didn't really deal with it much, but I guess, cool. What would you suggest to someone who is dealing with something like that, or in your journey with self-care? Like, have you had an instance where you had to say, like, look, I got to do this for me, because if I don't do this for me, I'm not gonna end up doing what I actually want? Like, did you ever have an instance like that? What would be your input to someone going through something like that?
The first thing I would say is, one, you got to know yourself. You got to know what you're gonna allow into your life, what you're gonna, tolerate for yourself, as far as like whether it's disrespect, shady remarks, but also you gotta set boundaries. So when I say set boundaries, I mean like set boundaries for yourself. Like if you realize that you're getting a lot of negative feedback from a family member or something like that, you gotta like set yourself away from that. Like you gotta understand like when they're around, like I don't want to say like don't do stuff that's gonna trigger them, because obviously like do what you want to do regardless, but like just like I don't even know how to explain, like just set yourself aside and understand what you need to do to just set yourself aside and just understand what you need to do to like create like a boundary for
like
your,
a personal bubble,
yeah,
like
a
to be in your own
bubble
personal
where nothing's
space.
gonna get in or bother you or like interfere with your mentality or emotions.
Did you have anything you want to add, Danny?
Yeah, for me, it's more like understanding first how the situation affects you before you can know how to approach it with the other person. Because when it's like in terms of like toxic relationships or dysfunctional families.
Whoa, we ain't there yet with toxic relationships.
Okay. But yeah, just knowing how it affects you first, because you can't help someone when you yourself you're hurting. So it's just like you have to know what's, like he said, set boundaries. But the only way you can know how to set boundaries is if you know how the situation affects you. So yeah, just know it, how it affects you first, and then just seeing how to approach it from there. Yeah.
Jana, you got anything?
When it comes down to that, I think always put yourself first and allow yourself to love yourself and grow within yourself. Because if you allow the toxicness or the negative go, like you feed into it, you're not going to be able to get out of it. And for you to get out of it, you have to block those things, like those negative things that's coming to you, and change it. Like if somebody tell you something that's negative all the time, really listen to what they're saying. If it's something that's like nothing to do with you, walk away. It is what it is. And I think that's something that, like, for me, it helped when in certain situations, I have to tell myself it is what it is. I can't please everyone. Not even family, like you can't please everyone. So you have to say it is what it is. Just walk away and just work on yourself, because you know what you love, you know who you are, and nobody knows you but you.
B? Well, actually, B, I have a question for you to answer. When would you say, like to add on to whatever you're gonna say, when would you say it's time to just let go? Like if what amount of time needs to pass before you can finally say like, all right, I'm gonna have to love this family member from a distance?
You knew this was an on point question for me. Honestly, once you've gone through it for so long, and just knowing that the negativity is just gonna keep coming, there's no way to stop it. If it's somebody else, you can't control anybody else. The only person you can control is yourself. You just have to remove yourself from the situation. Like after a while, if it's so taxing on you that you cannot stand to be around it in the same vicinity or under the same roof or anything like that, you just have to remove yourself. Like, I know it's gonna be hard, yes, but like you're gonna feel way better outside of that situation. You're not gonna wish to go back. No, like you're really gonna be happy with the decision you made, regardless of what trials and tribulations you have to go through moving forward, just to better yourself for your near future. So I just feel like once you've had enough, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it throughout your whole body, and then that's when it's gonna tell you, all right, it's time to pack up and go. And that's what happens.
Facts. That is facts. So because Danny wanted to go ahead and push into what the next part of this conversation is going to be, we're going to just kind of like...
He wasn't ready. He said, wait a second.
We're going to kind of just like glide right into it. So now that you guys kind of have a sense of where we stand on overcoming family members, we're going to kind of cross into overcoming toxic relationships. Now, toxic relationships is definitely like a taboo, because everybody has their own version definition of what a toxic relationship is. You have one side where you have women who feel that it really is the men who take ownership in making the relationship toxic. But then you also have guys who feel like, no, it's the women. The women are the reason why the relationship ends toxic. So obviously, because we're talking about self-care, we don't want to stay in these types of situations. We want to be able to analyze these situations, and if and when it becomes easier for us to walk away, we want to walk away with lessons learned, and obviously our head held high, able to move on to a better situation, whether that's working on ourselves or building with somebody else. So without further ado, we're going to start with the number one question. What is a toxic relationship? We're starting with the girls. What is your definition of a toxic relationship? And obviously, this is open to whatever your preference is. So we're going to try to be inclusive to whatever type of relationship you guys have, whether it's whatever. So starting with Bianca, what is your definition of toxic relationships?
Honestly, I would just say toxic relationship is when you're in a situation where you're going through something. You're going through a bunch of ups and downs, and I feel like ups and downs are natural, yes, but if it's something repetitive, something that keeps on coming up as an issue, a problem, or something like that, then I just lost my thought.
We'll give you some time, Jonna. What's your definition?
Yeah, bring me back.
Toxic relationship, it depends. Really depends.
Let's keep it narrow.
Narrow. Okay, so for me, a toxic relationship is when you kind of like lose yourself. You become, because I'm trying to say this in a nice way. You become, you're just not yourself. You're just not doing what you love to do. You're just not being who you should be or loving yourself. I just feel like toxic relationship, you kind of lose yourself when you're in something that's very toxic. I know, because I've been in one of those where I kind of just lost myself. I kind of just fell into it. And then you kind of become a yes man or woman. And you have to like kind of define yourself from that relationship. Like, is it worth it or is it not? And when you get into that point where you have to ask yourself, is it worth that relationship? Then you know it's not even worth the relationship, because you're going to constantly make excuses for the relationship.
For me, what makes up a toxic relationship, situation, whatever, is obviously when manipulation is involved, when there is lack of communication, when there's no trust, and obviously untrust falling into unfaithfulness. And for me, toxic is really, the manipulation part of it is very big in a toxic situation in relationship, because if we're talking about a scenario where it's kind of like just the talk and dating stage, like not even anything set in stone of a relationship, the manipulation can fall in play where, whether it's the girl or the guy, where they are unclear really about, like through words, they're unclear through words about what they want out of the situation, but their actions are showing something different. So for an example, it could be like if I'm talking to a guy and say we're messing around and like we're doing the whole sleepover stuff, we're staying the night with each other, or we're going out, but then when the question comes like, okay, so what's going on? Or if I decide that I want to talk to somebody else while I'm talking to you, and you say to me like, no, why are you talking to somebody else? But then I ask you, well, I thought we weren't together, but you're like, no, but you can't talk to nobody else. To me, that's kind of like a very controlling situation, and it kind of leads into a toxic situation because things are unclear. Mm-hmm. So to narrow it down, like I said, toxic relationship or situation to me is definitely made up of manipulation. Is mistrust a word? Okay.
It could be.
Mistrust, lack of communication. This obviously leads into insecurities. It's just I'm gonna just leave it at that. Cool, you can take over.
All right, I want to start off by saying first, just piggybacking off of Amber real quick. I personally feel like if it's even called a situationship or a situation, it's already
an
toxic.
Entanglement these days is what people are calling it.
It's already toxic off the rip.
Not if it's healthy.
But you guys, you guys all had some valid points. So I'm gonna keep this like really short and simple. A toxic relationship is if the bad outweighs the good.
Okay.
Fair enough. Lola?
Yeah, that's basically what I was gonna say. To me, it's just anything that,
Paraphrase in your own words, Olu.
I mean, to me, like I was saying, to me, it's just about if the relationship is lopsided, that's when this becomes toxic. And when the relationship is stopping you from progressing in life, that's when this becomes toxic as well. If you're like stopping somebody from progressing, or that person's stopping you from progressing in life, then that's how you know you're in a toxic relationship.
For me, a toxic relationship can be defined as a relationship that's driven by the wrong goals and not the right ones any longer. In the sense where, like, okay, you want to be with this person, you don't want to leave this person, but yet you're still here because, you feel like it can work, but it's not working.
History.
So now you're driven by the wrong thing, which is like this idea that it's gonna work, and you're still there hoping that it works while it's not working. So it's kind of like okay, yeah, we're still in a relationship, but right now we're just going at it the wrong way.
So when would you, we're going to start this way. When would you say is the right time to let go of a toxic situation? Is there some point in a toxic relationship or a situation where you're able to identify and say, okay, this is toxic and now it's time for me to go? And when you do make that decision, is that something that you communicate with that person, or you just pack up and leave?
I mean, for me, like, any situation has to start somewhere. Like, it just doesn't start off being toxic. So if it starts and you choose not to communicate, that's on you. You're allowing it to grow and get to that stage. So I feel like you should be able to communicate about anything from the start. Like, if I'm going to be in a relationship with you, what's the point of waiting till something gets toxic? Why can't we just talk about it and get over it? And just
Some people are not mature.
I'm not them, so.
Lola?
I think most people know they're in a toxic relationship. It's just that the hardest thing about it is like really getting out of the relationship, because like it's just so many factors, like with history, that future mindset, or it's gonna work, or like that you really believe in it. It's a lot of factors that go into it. But like once it becomes like once the relationship becomes a struggle, like a mental struggle, like it's really hard to give somebody advice to how to leave a situation, because everybody's situation is different. But once you catch in those early signs, you just have to take note of that, and then, keep working at it. And then if you want to communicate, some people communicate, some people don't communicate, some people just leave. But if you want to communicate, you can communicate a couple times. I don't know what people's trials of error may be, but as long as communication is involved, you can use that to get out of it too.
Kind of piggyback, for what Olu said. I pretty much agree. Like, when you get to a certain point where you don't feel like you're yourself anymore, or you're not, I don't want to say you're not happy, because everybody should be happy on their own before getting into anything first, but you just don't feel like this is like not working, or it's just taking more out of, your day-to-day mental than it should be. Like, you feel like a completely different person. You're not even acting like yourself. You're acting like somebody who's you're miserable, basically. Like, you don't feel good. Like, I feel like the perfect way to communicate it is honestly communicating it, because like if you communicate it, I personally feel like you could possibly be fixed, but depends on the person, like the other person, like how toxic they are, of course. But I personally feel like you should talk to them, leave it on the table, and it depends on also how close y'all were too. So
in my opinion, I started to cut Olu off when he was talking, but I think the reason why it's so hard for some people to get out of toxic situations and relationships is because some people enjoy that thrill. And I don't know if it's because it's like this desire of dealing with somebody who kind of gives you that feeling like, okay, I want you, like I don't want you necessarily, but I don't want anybody else with you. So it's kind of like that feeling of what's the word? I don't know. I'm gonna just keep it as like just feeling wanted by a person, but also like that you kind of just get used to that habit, like that that situation. Like if a toxic relationship is all you know, like say for an example, the toxic, you being in a toxic family or you coming from a toxic home, if that's all you know, going into a toxic relationship, maybe that's something that you attract. And I'm not saying that like, you know, it's your fault if it becomes toxic, but like it could stem from like so many different types of places. So I think to start that, for some people leaving that type of situation, it's kind of like, you kind of have like the stronghold on it because it's like you're just so used to it. It's not something like you get so used to it that you can't really see life without that situation. Not even the person, just that situation itself. So before we let the other panelists go, we're going to take a quick break and we will be back in just a few moments.